Triple M NRL Daily, the Journos show. Danny Weidler is back in the studio from 9 years after his week in the Blues Mountains. Nearly called it the Blues Mountains. How was it?
Wonderful. I'll be talking about it on the pod.
And Michael Chammas from the Sydney Morning Herald. What have you got?
That should be enough for you to give you a pretty good clue as to what I'm talking about.
Okay, cool. No idea. Back in the studio, Danny down from Blues Mountains. How was it up there?
Quiet.
Yeah, just
Quiet.
how you like it, huh?
Quiet and cold. Great to be with the lads up there. It was fun. It was good fun.
Lads.
Yeah, it was good fun to hang. I'm sure they're happy not to be seeing me at the moment. But yeah, I'm glad to be back in the big smoke. Happy birthday, Adam.
Thank you. Birthday?
Earlier this week, yes.
Oh,
on Monday.
Count. Sorry,
40.
Yeah, I did see that actually on Instagram.
Guess how old?
You just said 40.
No, I'd make a bigger deal if it was that. It's not a milestone.
No, yeah, he's not 40. You're about 46.
One short.
Pretty good.
Under club by one.
Yeah. I remember you telling me you were about 10 years old. It was my birthday the week before. Thanks for saying that. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Chammy.
Was it?
Thanks.
How old are you?
37.
37.
Yeah.
Got 10 years on you.
Yeah, I remember that's why I knew it was about
That's
10.
right.
No more age reference.
How old are you, Danny?
56.
Okay, so we've
56.
got 10 years each way. Okay.
We span across generations.
Yeah,
Look at us.
Yeah, look at us. You're 10 years away from it. I'm right in the middle of it. He knows it well there.
Yeah,
Every
yeah.
sneeze hurts.
Oh, yeah.
Every sneeze hurts.
Yep.
Origin.
Mm.
Wish someone would sneeze and do something. This build up. Here we are. Released this podcast on game day. She's been pretty quiet.
Look, the Blues has been all about their injuries, hasn't it? That's all it's been. And who hasn't trained, who has trained. Amazingly, I think Payne Haas will be going to this Origin without doing any training. There's been some suggestions he has, but I haven't seen him do a single thing. Even on their big session on Monday, didn't do anything. Just doing his little bits of rehab and physio and that sort of thing. Brian To'o, on the other hand, ran in that Monday session. That's the only thing he's done as well. But I'm sure they've done like some weights and that sort of stuff. But in terms of training with the team, no. And they respectively have been their best players in game 1 and game 2. Maybe none of them should train any of the time.
Training's overrated.
That's like me. I don't prepare when I come in. You just got to just wing it, right?
So you're comparing yourself to Payne Haas or
Yeah,
Brian
similar.
To'o?
Do you know
Which
what
one?
this game is lacking? You talk about lack of something in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what it needs?
What?
It needs Danny to make something up like he did in Game 3 last year. Remember, Cobbo? You did that story on
Does he have to say that?
Game 3.
We're about to launch
series on the line.
We're about to launch into a podcast where your credibility is being questioned
Oh,
by
yes,
a number of people, and you want to
yes.
say that.
Shall get
Yeah,
to
I,
this.
yeah, I do actually.
You want to say that?
No, I'll back you up, mate. I'll back you up.
thank
I'll back
you.
you up on a number of things today.
Yeah, thank you.
With Payne Haas, so run us through it. It's a cortisone in his
In the back, yeah. So apparently it's a week before you can do anything after that.
Yep.
Hudson Young had some sort of injection as well. He couldn't train for a week. Jerome came out of hospital, as we know. He looked really shaky the first couple of days I saw him. He just didn't 3 days in hospital is going to knock you around on antibiotics with an infection. But he's come good. Nathan, no goal kicking. The goal kicking will be done by Zach. Latrell will be the other kicker if anything goes wrong. He's been kicking them from all over the place without using a kicking tee, and
Of course he has.
He's just a natural, right? And yeah, so that's all the story's been for the Blues is who's going to play. And last night, Frank Panisi told me they're going to be 1-17. And Laurie's presser confirmed all that.
So if Payne Haas is having a cortisone, it's pretty obvious that he's got a problem.
It's an ongoing problem. Yeah.
So I can see that I've had cortisones in my back.
Oh, you're comparing yourself to Payne Haas now.
One of which, here's a fun story, one of which nicked the spinal
Mm.
fluid column,
No.
and spinal fluid started to leak out, and it went to the top of my neck, and I had to stay vertical for 3 days while that repaired itself. That was fun. So hopefully it doesn't happen to Payne. What I'm saying is with Payne Haas, if he's having that management, not training, fronting up, he's going to push himself through the pain barrier. Brisbane Broncos over the moon about this situation.
Look, he's been managing it all year.
Yeah.
And he's been lights out all year. He's been unreal. So, I think that
It's a good word from you. Like, it's not really your era. Like he's been lights out
he's
all
really
year.
picky today,
Lights
isn't
out.
he? He's really
No, I'm really impressed. Like, you've picked up the vocabulary really well in the last
the
few.
lingo.
Yeah, the lingo.
For a 56-year-old,
the young,
that's pretty good.
What'd you say just then? It was lights
You tell
out.
me. You tell
Lights
me. Chammy.
out.
You've been
Burgers. You wrote about burgers on the
Oh, we'll
weekend.
get to
Yeah,
that.
Are you even
burger.
listening?
Huh?
You're listening today.
I am listening. That's why I'm taking notes. I'm really proud of you that you've
First
become.
5 minutes of this
You're wearing
podcast,
a-
he's had nothing to say.
You've
That's the
ordered
thing,
New
it's
York-
all
Other than,
your
you
way.
know, like it's Origin.
Well,
Well, he doesn't bother with
New York
Origin,
hat.
does he?
No,
No.
as I told Frank Panisi in that podcast we did last week, he's above Origin. Michael Chammas is bigger than Origin.
I was born on Origin.
Yeah.
So you're bigger than Origin.
I'm a little down Champions side. It's your work, obviously, but announce the teams and then 10 days in, I'll zone back in properly to watch the game.
Yeah, people, look, it's going to get huge numbers.
Yeah.
I know by Chammy's metrics, it doesn't rate in the papers and that sort of stuff, does it?
No, we've had this conversation before. Like, it's not huge in the lead up, no, because their fans are most passionate about their club teams. That's what I find now. With spending my time during Origin camps chasing club news.
Yeah, it's been noted by all the people in Origin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sure they want
They're
to
all
send
off
me to
you.
Lura.
they're all off you.
I mean, obviously the Cameron Munster
Yep.
situation with his father, that's an outlier because that's a life situation. And again, shout out to how Queensland have handled it as well, and how journalism's handled it too.
Yeah, I think
but
people
not
have been very respectful.
stepping beyond, extremely respectful, and we'll see what he rocks up with on Wednesday evening on Origin night to play. But
Adam, the fact that he's playing is courageous. It's incredibly courageous. I mean, how he can get himself together to do that, I don't know. I think it's such a huge thing that he's doing.
it's the most personal of decisions.
Oh my God! No, I'm not saying whether he should do it or shouldn't. I'm just saying the fact that he's doing it is incredible. Like hats off. He's on. The fact that he's going to play that game is incredible.
Yeah, did Queensland call in Ezra Mam or
I think they trained Reece Walsh at
just put Reece Walsh in at 5'8",
yeah.
knowing that Cameron Munster's
Correct.
there? So I'll wait and see what happens. What do you think is going to happen in this game?
In terms of the result,
Yeah.
Oh, I think.
And what does it mean, the result for the follow-up? You know, the Thursday follow will be great, someone's celebrating, but boom, someone's under pressure.
I think that the real blowtorch will be applied if New South Wales lose. I don't think this is a series they shouldn't lose on paper. Now, will they lose? No. Who knows? Time will tell. But they've been off for most of the series. If they play their best football, they'll cruise to a series win at home. You know, Queensland. We know we've spoken about Cameron Munster disrupted lead up. I think New South Wales have so much to lose by not winning this series. Like there's going to be blowtorch applied to a lot of people. It'll be applied to Nathan if he doesn't deliver on the biggest stage. Question marks over the appointment of Laurie. The team should win, and we've been in this situation before, and Queensland have won. And I think most people will turn around if Queensland lose and say, "Well, that's the right result. They have the inferior team on paper."
Did you feel that up in camp? Sometimes you feel that nervous tension in the air around sporting teams when they're expected to do something. Did you feel that in the last week or so, Danny?
Didn't notice it. I didn't notice that any nerves had set in. I noticed that determination had set in, and I really noticed it in Laurie. But you know, you see the players when they're in the foyer and stuff. They're quite relaxed. They're not, they're not really talking football and that sort of thing. They're mucking around, whatever. But I don't think. But I do think what Michael said is pretty true. This is a game that New South Wales should win, and in fact, I don't think they should be in the position they're in right now. They should have wrapped it up in Perth.
Oh,
That was a genuine missed opportunity because they scored more tries for a start. Their start was just terrible, and we shouldn't be in this situation where we should be going for a clean sweep, not trying to save the.
He's a wee guy.
I'm in New South Wales.
No, you're a lad. And you made it quite clear in the first 18 seconds of this podcast that you're one of the boys.
Oh, it's been lights out journalism from Danny Weidler this camp,
good for you.
including
It's good for
including the trip to the barber shop with your cat.
Oh yes, so I told
So that's your cat.
So a lot of people wouldn't have seen that story I did with Angus Crichton.
Yep.
I went and got a haircut at Angus's barber shop. We did a
D-Dub.
story. We filmed it.
Called him D-Dub as well, didn't you? I think.
I did, or I.
No, you didn't call
No,
yourself
Danny.
that. It hasn't got to that yet.
On 360,
And
D-Dub.
I took my my dog. She was coming for a walk, and I brought him to the barber shop. And Angus was quite amused by that, so she became part of the story. My dog / cat.
Yeah.
Which that person tweeted in about some time ago. Yeah, it was just a nice cut. Like it's a different story, Adam. That's what we're trying to do.
It was.
It was, yeah.
I did laugh.
Had every angle covered.
I did laugh.
The haircut I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yes, thank
I
you.
did laugh when he brought out the
The cutthroat.
the cutthroat.
Yes,
And
I didn't laugh.
geez, there have been a few that
Yes.
love that
Yes.
cutthroat in their hand.
Yes.
With you in that chair
Yes.
buckled in.
Yes.
And for those who have missed the whole catwalk, just to re-energise this story for a little bit, there was someone who wrote into the show a few years ago and said, I just
Years
saw,
ago? Wow.
yeah, maybe,
Yeah.
Danny Weidler walking his cat in Bondi at 4 o'clock in the morning.
But wearing my Crocs
Wearing
and long
Crocs.
socks.
Yeah.
Crocs, long socks, walking a cat.
Look, the 4 a.m. probably would have been right.
The Crocs and long socks as well.
No, I don't have Crocs. I've got
Okay.
another
Mate,
version.
Crocs. He wouldn't be seen in Crocs. There's some sort of Louis Vuitton version of Crocs.
Yeah. But it
Something
wasn't
like
your
that.
cat, it was your dog,
My dog Taylor, who's now, my kids love the story, so I was happy with that.
the cat walker. There you go. Okay. Speaking of felines, the West Tigers. The West Tigers.
Our favourite topic.
Chammy, as we just to give you a bit of
Unsubscribe.
background about last week, we record this at various times through the week. Michael Chammas came in and said, "Can we record just as I drop my story about the West Tigers?" Sure, no worries. You set the
No,
agenda.
that's not what happened.
Shut the time.
Don't make up
Well,
stories.
it was curated the release of this podcast for your story
Last week,
Yes, it was.
sort of. I was working on it and I was coming in. Anyway,
and it
keep
was an
going.
in-depth analysis piece on the West Tigers and their recruitment retention policy.
Not according to Richo, it wasn't.
Yeah.
According to Richo,
The pack of lies.
It was a fiction novel.
Here he is, Shane Richardson, talking about Chammy's article from last week.
The article was written early in the week, and I understand journalism and clickbait and all the rest of it, but agenda-driven journalism is not true. It's just not true. And the lies that were written in the article was very difficult for Benji to take. He's got a thick skin, but he just felt, and the players particularly just felt they knew it wasn't true. Adam Dewey knew it wasn't true. I've never even met Paul McGregor, so how I was going to get him as a coach, I don't know. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that it was a statement by the players about what they feel about Benji.
So he's basically said you're full of you-know-what
Yeah.
in that little quote right there, Michael Chammas, but you're pretty content that what was in that article is not a diversion of the truth.
It was quite funny actually seeing, their version of Benji first, I guess, after the game, talking about that wasn't true. I don't know what part of the Adam Dewey situation wasn't true, because if you look at the story I wrote, it was 1,000 words into my story. I deliberately didn't make it the lead, didn't put it in the headline, because I felt like I wasn't trying to make an issue of that. What I was trying to
That
point
was
out.
actually really responsible. I thought that you could have led with that.
Well, I
You
think
actually could have led with Benji v. Dewey.
yeah.
I mean, that in a tabloid sense, that was the headline.
Well, I had
And
people from the opposition saying, well, why wasn't that your lead?
Yeah,
But I felt
yeah.
that would have been trying to beat up a situation that I didn't think that I never said that there was a problem that would stem from this. What I was pointing out in my story, and that's why I came 1,000 words in, is that sometimes, and there are people within the club and the players, not that they don't like Benji, but sometimes Benji blurs the lines between player and coach. And I said on the podcast that it was about sometimes
Clicks.
Benji wanted, be one of the boys. And because of that, there was little clicks forming. Not that they hate Benji. Never said that they hate Benji. But there were people starting to feel like they were on the outer a little bit. And I stand by what I wrote. And what I wrote about Adam Dewey being tackled by Benji Marshall and things getting aggressive, I stand by it. And Benji saying it's not true. Well, Benji was actually walking around last week before his press conference, after training leading into the game, showing journos the vision of the tackle.
Yeah, he briefed some journos.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
Have you seen the vision?
No, I haven't seen the vision. I spoke to people. There's Adam, there's a reason that I found out there was an issue.
Let's talk, what does the vision, like it's a spider cam or up high vision, is that right?
I haven't seen it. People who were there told me that
Yeah.
there was, Benji was showing the
Yeah.
journos, here, have a look at this tackle. Do you think that's that bad?
You never called it that bad.
I never said it was that bad.
You
The
didn't say it
point
was
I
Harrigan on Carroll. It was just a
No.
like a tackle.
I said, and
a
I
shot.
said there were words exchanged. I didn't say the words were exchanged after. I said there were words exchanged in that training towards Adam Dewey, and there was from Benji Marshall. They weren't glowing comments. And then the tackle came in. The point I was making is that Benji sometimes, he blurs the lines between player and coach. Now, I think he said words to the effect of, I do it because no other coaches can. Well,
You mean by that he's
training against
and
players.
playing,
And
yeah.
He's
you
fit
know.
enough to be able to do it.
Of course he is. And I even said on the podcast, I said mate, he'd walk out and play. He'd still be good enough to play. Attack-wise, I don't know how his body will hold up defensively, but he's a freak. Maybe he will hold up defensively. He'd put a
Ask
shot
Adam
on
Dewey.
Adam Dewey. But that's
Who didn't refute it, by the way, when he was interviewed after the game. Sorry, Chammas
Yeah.
on Triple M, just to let our listeners know if you missed it. He was interviewed and he had a laugh about it. He goes, yeah, we got our boxing gloves out and that's how we settled it type thing. He made light of it, but he didn't deny
Clearly
any of
something
what
happened.
something happened.
was written.
Yeah.
And I can
happened.
guarantee you Adam
And
Dewey
you
was
didn't blow
taking-
it up, Chammy. You could have, like, as I said, you could have led with that.
Oh, well,
and you-
I was asked, should I lead with that?
Yeah.
I was asked to do a news story on
Just that.
just that.
And to me,
And I felt that was irresponsible journalism because I felt that incident didn't warrant being put up in headlights. It became that.
Yeah.
That's not on me. If other websites want to rip what off,
yeah.
I saying
But
I
you
wrote
knew that
1,000
could
words
happen.
in.
You knew that was a possibility.
Yeah,
of
but I
having
can't
the
be held
focus.
responsible for what
I know.
other organisations do.
Yeah, but the focus was going to be on that because when you relayed some of the information to me, I said, "Well, I know Benji does all that. I know he, trains and he can show people up and they can feel a certain way because I've heard those stories."
Yeah.
But what I didn't know was the Dewey incident,
Yeah.
and I back you on that. Something happened. You didn't make it out to be more than it was, and other people, when they see it, they can exaggerate it in the way they describe it. You didn't do that.
No.
Listening to some of the commentary on it, it did sound like people were making it into Harrigan Carroll
Yeah.
from 1995.
Yeah.
It was-
But Chammy didn't do that.
I want to read. If I could find the words,
gotta
I
quote
would actually.
yourself.
Well, I wanted to quote myself.
no, but
yeah.
back to the actual context of the whole story. So that was down there. What got lost, I felt, in the last 7 days was what you did use as the lead about Shane Richardson saying this when he came into the club, and 18 months later, is it 18 months?
Yep.
It feels like the exact opposite has happened to those words through no material kind of clear direction that Shane Richardson's had. It's just taken a long and winding road to get away from local juniors going to win comps. Okay. A few walking out the door.
Yeah.
That's the lead.
Yeah. Well,
That's the overriding concept.
And not just that. Well, that's a very good point. But not just that. I was at the Benji presser where he said that De Silva wanted to stay at the club. He wanted to be there, right? Then a few days later,
yeah. After the game,
he said he didn't want to be here. So I'm confused now because I was hearing from the same guy, and I respect Benji, but I'm just confused. A few days before it, he wanted to be there. He didn't want to leave our club. A few days later, he didn't want to be there. So mixed messaging, it doesn't wash well with me. And Benji, look, I don't know the story. Benji knows the story. He knows exactly what happened. We also quizzed Benji whether he and Shane Richardson were on the same page about Appy or De Silva, like who wanted who. We're on the same page. Not what I'd heard previously. So, but we can only take them on their word, and I'm taking Benji on his word in terms of that he didn't want to be there because that's the latest word I've got.
It's interesting. Like Shane Richardson yesterday on 360 talking about the agenda-driven story that
Have you got an agenda against the Tigers?
What I'm asking? What's my agenda at this?
What do you gain
what
out
do
of
I what do I gain out of it? What am I trying to do to the Tigers?
Clicks.
Well, that's the easy one. It's not even like they've lost 6 games in a row. You lose Talon De Silva on the back of losing Galvin.
Yep.
And
which doesn't make any sense.
And people are asking questions. So naturally, as a journo writing for the Sydney Morning Herald, you ask questions about it. And the thing is about Shane Richards in denial about what's going on in his club. The ease in which that information is coming to me should be a concern for them. People emailing off from the club, trying to reach out to me on emails they make up to try and get information to me. Players, former players, staff, current staff, former staff.
So you're saying the Tigers are full of leaks?
Well, he started. You know what Shane Richardson did?
Is that what you're saying? It's full of leaks.
I'm saying.
And they're not.
There's people willing to give up
Yeah.
information.
Happy clubs don't talk, Danny. Happy clubs don't talk. Okay? And I'm not saying that place is a basket case or people are unhappy left, right and centre, but there's obviously an element of that. We've seen that with players playing so far down in Sydney Shield and Ron Massey. We've seen that with players wanting to leave. Benji makes the point the other day in the press conference, they didn't want to be here. Whether he was mixed messaging or not, he made the point they didn't want to be here. But isn't the question, why don't those guys want to be here anymore? Why is there not an environment where people don't want to leave?
Why did Lachlan Galvin want to leave?
And he might be the outlier. Maybe Lachlan Galvin was the weirdo. Maybe he's the weirdo. But it's not a one-off. Like there's been a number of players. He's had issues with a number of players.
Stefano.
He's got the Fainu boys. They love him. I hope Benji does well. I've got no issue with Benji whatsoever. I think he's got great attributes. He's got people who run through walls for him. Jerome Luai, Api Coruscant, Taruva, the Fainu boys. And that is a great trait to have as a coach.
He can sign players. He can attract players. He's clearly shown. The thing with Benji, over many, many years of covering league, I covered his whole career. He was incredible, as we all know. But when I ask players, when I interview them, I ask them a stack of questions. And one question I might ask a young player who I haven't really met or got to know is, which player did you idolise growing up or admire? And the number of players who say Benji Marshall is huge.
Yeah.
By far and away, the number one. And the second would be someone like Sonny Bill.
Yeah.
But I mean, Benji Marshall, the most, prop forwards will say that. He was the guy. They all grew up wanting to be able to do what Benji did.
Yeah.
So
I was one of those kids.
So he can attract players. So that's a big quality he's got. But, and look, they've got 6 wins this year, which is the same as they had all of last year. So that if they can jag a couple more,
they're much improved. They're much improved.
Yeah.
I just with Shane Richardson's that from the moment he started, I remember ringing him and he said, "I didn't know Shane Richardson was next to Lee Hadjipentelis in the phone book."
Is that what he said to you? That's not a bad line, actually.
Yeah, it was not bad from him. And then make comments like, "You're not going to get anything out of this, out of this club anymore."
Oh.
And mate,
hang on, when did he say that? In the same conversation?
The phone conversation.
Was this just a random phone call?
No, I called him when he started, as I would. You know, and you both know, I had a good relationship with Lee Hadjipentelis and Justin.
No.
Lee's fault, his strength as a person was that he couldn't lie, that he was too honest, that he was too upfront. He wanted to be the face of the club, and sometimes he spoke too much. Mm-hmm. Well, podcast King Richo at the moment, it's everywhere as well.
Not on this one.
He's not on this one, but when Richo started, we'll invite him. I've tried to do interviews. I'm not worried about talking to Shane Richardson. He obviously won't want to do it, but when he started, mate, he announced a 5-year deal for Jerome Luai. It's a 2-year deal. Mm-hmm. Misled his own fans. Richo was the one who didn't want to give Luai an option, and the previous management were willing to give him an option every single year of his deal, which, having spoken to people in the deal, and not just Justin Pascoe, that is not true. It was actually Shane Richardson who agreed to a clause when the previous administration wouldn't give him any.
I chased that story up and that was confirmed,
Jerome Luai said he's a once-in-a-lifetime halfback. 6 months later, he's trying to buy Adam Reynolds over the top of him. I'm going to concede something. He said yesterday on 360 that the Paul McGregor stuff, that was not part. I wrote
it was in that quote.
That he wanted
he's
Paul
never
McGregor.
Spoken to him.
That he's never spoken. That he's never met him. He said
never met him.
You know what? I remember having the conversation with Richo at the time that he wanted to get somebody different, and that Benji was leaning towards one of the guys that he'd coached, that he'd previously worked with and played with in Brett Hodgson. I might have got Paul McGregor mixed up. Maybe it was Demetra, and I apologise if it wasn't Paul McGregor, but that's not the point. The point of who it was.
I seem to remember McGregor's name being linked with the Tigers.
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. Maybe you are right. Maybe it was McGregor. But the point I'm making is...
Richo has denied that strongly.
Yeah, but he's denying semantics.
Yeah.
The point is that I was making in that article is that Richo is that Benji aligns himself with people that he's close to, and sometimes that's causing issues for Benji because is he getting the best people?
And I remember at the time, I think that Richo was... behind the scenes, he was wanting somebody who Benji wasn't.
That's why I wrote the story, because I remember speaking to Richo about it.
Yeah, but I think that was something I'd heard at that time.
Jerome Buller. So he's now the next cab off the rank.
Yep.
Just run us through.
Managed by Isaac
Chammy,
Moses.
You mentioned this on 100% footy. So, now managed by Isaac Moses. But
speaking of mates,
because Liam Ayoub has gone to the Dogs to work within the tent, not outside the tent as an agent.
Yep.
But Buller, his deal is he can be a November 1, but there's a clause in there, trigger a player option or a club option, but they're 2 different figures to trigger
Explain that, Chammy.
And is this a regular, there's a different figure in there for whoever takes up the option, which seems to me extraordinary.
Well, this is not news. I remember writing it in the grand final week of 2024 when he did the deal. I remember speaking to the club at the time. If the club takes it up, there's an assumption that they want to keep him, right? That he's going really well. So if they decide to take it up, it's at a higher number. So that figure was set at 900,000. So if the club decide we want to keep you, we get you for 900. You're killing it.
Yep.
That way, that stops Jerome Buller going on the market looking for $1 million plus. Then to protect Buller, they also agreed to a player option that if the club didn't want to take up the 900 offer, and he was suddenly not as good, that he could take up the 800 offer. But at the moment, no one's taken up that.
Is this just on the offer? those two,
Yeah.
that way of doing it. Is that highly unusual?
No, it's happened. I remember Josh Hodgson did it with Parramatta.
Okay.
In the end, he had to take up the option himself. It was a lower figure, so he took up the player option because they didn't want to take it.
Wasn't Jamal Fogarty, was there an option where he could have taken up, where Canberra could take up
They
a
were
certain
looking at
price?
doing that. They were looking at doing
I think
that,
that was
yeah.
part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
From memory,
Yep.
he could take up an option.
So this is not a new.
It's not
new
unusual.
thing.
What is unusual is in the middle of this negotiation, in the middle of this deal, that he's now changed managements. And he's now with Isaac Moses. I don't need to explain to the listeners the history with the West Tigers.
Isaac and Benji don't get along.
No, and he's Galvin's manager. And there's a long-standing history that goes back years and years and years to Tedesco, Moses,
all of
Woods, Brooks,
Yeah.
the Big Four
Stop
scandal.
giving all those Tigers fans trauma.
So
Games.
in this situation, that's what I reported last night on 100% Footy, is I've been told that Isaac Moses has started to gauge to see who would be interested in Jareem Buller.
Which you're allowed to do before November 1.
You're not allowed to negotiate, but he's just testing the waters to see, hey, if he is a November 1 boy and he's still a free agent and the Tigers haven't taken up the option, would you be interested?
I think Isaac will have to be very careful in this deal, given everything that happened with Lachlan Galvin.
100%.
He's going to have to
100%.
I'd imagine he will be ticking all the,
He's obviously not because he's going
Yeah,
out.
what?
I think he'll be careful.
You know what? I don't think he cares.
No, I don't think he
Maybe
cares
not,
either.
but I just, maybe,
The way he
maybe
rolls.
maybe he doesn't want to go
He'll
through
just
another.
do the best thing for his client.
Maybe we can get Sugu Amesi on him.
I say you've got to explain that.
What?
Okay. See, he just throws out train spotting stuff.
It's not train spotting. I think 80,000
No,
viewers
they're
had
not
it
even
yesterday
you've
when I
heard of.
looked at it.
So there's a YouTube clip or doco
It's a doco.
on Isaac Moses.
Oh, this one's been
Sugu
floating around.
Amesi.
Sugu Amesi is a person who's made
No
it.
idea. Some bloke just started this documentary. It's like a
It felt like it was an AI thing, didn't it?
listen.
Did it feel like it was an AI?
No, your lingo stopped at lights
Okay.
out. Don't
So
go to that AI.
All right. Did you watch it?
No, I
watched
scrolled through it to see it. It's like a recap. It's like this is
It's a recap and there's
this
like-
is your life, Isaac Moses.
And there's like people who look like they're playing the role of Isaac Moses, like from behind. Like there's a guy who might be.
so
Isaac.
you watched it.
Yeah, I watched the whole
You
thing.
know, I got accused of making that video.
Wouldn't
Like, if I'm going to
surprise me if you
spend my
did.
life, that would have taken weeks and months to do. I'm going to do it for Sugu Amesi on my
Well,
YouTube page.
Sugu Amesi hasn't called Lachlan Galvin by the right name, which makes me feel like it could be AI because it says Lachlan Galvin throughout the whole thing.
Oh, there's a voice.
There's
There's
a
a
voice.
narrator. Okay.
Sugu.
Sugu.
I'm trying to.
Anyway,
you know,
Sugu backward. There's Gus in there.
yeah, exactly.
See, and Gus
No, I'm
made
just
it.
trying to work this out, but a Messi, there's no Gould. I'm just
Anyway,
wondering what it is.
For the listeners out there, if you got half an hour, have a look. You look at for Journos, we've sort of lived it all. Buzz gets a good run in it.
Yeah, does he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, the point we're making though is that Isaac, he won't earn anything out of the Bullers deal unless he gets him a new deal. So that is either an upgrade, an extension,
Your favourite rule in rugby league?
at the Tigers, or a new deal
All right.
elsewhere. I don't think Buller wants to leave. I think Buller loves
I've asked him
Benji.
directly.
Buller?
Yeah, Buller. I asked him
Okay.
directly a little while ago when all this Galvin stuff was going on. He said he likes the Tigers.
What's he
going to
say to you directly?
That's exactly right, especially with the camera there.
But I believe it. I remember speaking to the Tigers when they did the deal. He loved Benji.
Mm-hmm.
He loved the idea of. Now maybe things have changed, but I don't think my mail is that he's happy there.
What's he worth, champ?
If
And
I'm
who needs a fullback?
the problem is for the Tigers, I don't think he's worth 900.
Mhm.
But
But-
do you want to lose him?
What's the option?
So you need to get to the bottom of whether or not he wants to stay or not.
Yep.
Because I don't think he's worth 900 yet.
He
But
will be.
maybe, I don't know. There's still a lot to go.
Who needs a fullback? Cronulla? Because they don't seem to be keen on
I
Will
don't know.
Kennedy anymore.
Dragons.
What's wrong with Gutho?
No, I'm saying, well, he's still got 26, 27. He's still got 26 contracted.
Yeah.
Potentially long-term Dragon. I don't know. You asked me who needs a fullback. I'm thinking in a couple of years' time.
Mm.
Para maybe. Young is killing it.
No, he's doing great. How old's Connor Tracy?
Yeah, Dogs.
When's James Tedesco's contract end?
Mm.
Yeah. We're just. This.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think anything.
suitable. Yeah.
I'm not going to give up where I've got my information from, but I'm pretty happy and confident with what I said yesterday. Is that he's starting to gauge interest.
Mhm.
Righto. We're done, Tigers?
No,
Sweat it all out?
I'm actually sweating.
Do you
Can I
feel
take this
better?
jumper
Yeah, I
off?
know.
You feel better, Chammy, or not?
No, why would I feel better?
Because you got to
I'm just
say
doing my
some
job.
things. No, but you got to say some things. You got to
Not really. That
give
doesn't
your
bother
point
me.
of view across.
Doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Break. Back
my
with
job.
more after this. St George Illawarra Dragons. So apparently their CEO, Tim Watsford, wants a marquee halfback. They're not...
So a lot of clubs.
Yeah. They're not falling off
I want to win lotto.
lemon trees, are they? They're
Lemon trees. Okay.
I'm just thinking of things that fall off regularly, and lemons fall off trees.
But
all
you
the
know what?
time.
You wouldn't want a lemon, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
Because there'd be
Michael.
a lemon. It's another term for you to look up.
I know it. I know it. That's an old school term,
Yeah,
Michael.
okay.
Are they a chance?
Of what?
Oh,
Kidding
Marky,
someone?
Well, who's around?
Yeah, they're a chance. Of course, they're a chance.
Yeah.
But who? There's no one around for
Well,
next.
they all want.
for next
Everyone
year.
wants a marquee half.
You're just gonna have to wait and see if someone gets angry and agitate. That's all. That's what they're hoping for. 27. Realistically, they're not going to get anyone until 27.
Wow, that's a long wait, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
It's a long wait.
That's why it
you've got
goes.
to find a short-term solution.
Well,
And I didn't
Atkinson's
think that
coming.
was the most. I didn't think that was the most interesting part of the interview. You buried the lead there, like I did with the Tigers.
Sorry.
The interesting part was the fact that he was basically admitting that Kyle's a 14.
But we know that, don't we?
Well, we said that on this
Yeah.
podcast that he's. I said I think Kyle's a first grader, just not your main man.
Can you, to me, a CEO saying that, is he trying to draw a line somewhere? Is that a shot at Shane Flanagan
And that's not a shot. Do you know what it's doing?
What
I
is
think
it?
it's taking the pressure off Shane Flanagan
and Kyle?
because we know that externally and internally, really, Shane Flanagan's interview with Buzz defending Kyle
Massively.
caused them more angst than good.
Yeah, massively.
What'd you make of Ricky's comments on, when was
Was
it?
that a shot at
Saturday
you?
night.
Was that a shot at you? No, your
before
column wasn't
my
out.
column wasn't out yet.
Lucky.
People would like to think it's a shot at me.
Yeah.
Look, I actually felt, look, Ricky's entitled to say whatever he wants, right? But I felt a bit sorry for the young female
Who was it, by the way?
journalist who was it. I don't know, but I felt that she took a hit for a lot of other people.
She took the first hit up in Origin
yeah,
there.
like she took, and she got,
And she wasn't wanted to be Spencer
she was
Leniu either.
HIA,
Ooh,
like she was
yeah.
off. Yeah,
Yeah, that was
because
no. I reckon she handled it pretty well.
but I just felt like
Yeah.
what was directed. That was my main issue. I think Ricky can say whatever he likes.
Mm.
Ricky's emotional after games,
Mm.
as we've seen with other comments he's made, like about Jamin Salmon.
But
So
he's also passionate about the people that he knows, and he made it quite clear he's known him since a kid. So
yeah, but you know that Ricky and Shane Flanagan aren't tight,
no, they're not. No, no.
which that to me was the number one most surprising thing about it,
yeah.
because I know for a fact they're not tight.
Mm.
So I don't know why Ricky decided to do that, but I'm obviously motivated by
Protecting himself for future just in case.
potentially. I don't know, but
No.
look, Ricky knows how the media works,
Yeah.
and I don't know if he sought out that young journo or that person afterwards. I wouldn't surprise me if he did, because I actually felt for her. If it was someone like Michael or myself copying it,
Oh,
we
I'd be cheering.
Well,
Yeah.
if it was someone
No,
who'd
you
been,
would be
if
cheering.
it was someone who'd been actually given it to
yeah,
Kyle,
and that's why I felt in that
so
instance.
if it was you
yeah,
or
yeah,
you know,
or you.
yeah.
Hang on.
I don't know if I'm in the giving it to Kyle.
Hang on a
Well,
sec.
you didn't exactly make him Wimbledon's number one seed last
Yeah,
year when
you
we
said
started
they're the
talking
worst
halves
in the
pairings.
comp.
I said they're in the bottom two. Yeah. Well,
No, you said the worst half pairing in the comp.
no, go back and listen to what I said. I said if they're not the worst, they're in the bottom two. Yeah.
Well,
So
either
that-
way.
Yeah, but I stand by it. What did I
Ladies and
say?
gentlemen, that's a compliment to Michael Chammas.
Whoa,
You might not be the worst, you're only the second worst.
Whoa.
God.
You're the least, not best.
Yeah.
Well done.
You're not giving a speech on my 60th.
Someone's got to. If you're doing a rating, as you asked me to do, someone's got to be 16th and
So
17th.
hang on, but that's fine. But you just said you're not. You created
No, I'm not
this.
personally. There's no personal attacks.
No, but you created it.
You, of all people,
started
are
it.
allowed to be critical about, at the heart of it, that's your team,
Yeah, but
Dragons.
I like Kyle, and I said to you, he's a first grader. But on a piece of paper at the start of the year, the Galvin, I'm gone.
Wow. Yeah. And as for that Dragons CEO, Shane Richardson.
He's officially lost it, hasn't
Yeah,
he?
yeah, yes.
I think Richo's rattled you, and Benji,
he's on paper.
and everyone else at the
Ilias.
Tigers.
So flustered.
And what's his name? Kyle. Well, it's 16 or 17, and I've had the Newcastle guys with them, and I stand by it.
So you also stand by now the fact that you were one of the people criticising.
No, that's not what Ricky's referring to. Ricky's not referring to.
No, it's the personal attacks.
He's not referring
I think
to
he was
that.
referring
No.
to social media and
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
And if he read your article the next day, he would have been referring to you.
Well, I haven't had a phone call from him.
No, I'm mucking around. But your article was that moves into the human side of it, and I'm never going to doubt your mail. I back you 100%. I know how hard you work. I did with Selwyn Cobbo last year. You and I spoke before you wrote the article, and you asked me if I'd been hearing it. I made some calls. I hadn't, but I know that you're close to certain people, and I know that if you're going to go within your column, then I'll back you 100%. So I found it a fascinating read into what
All
is
it
happening
was,
at the
so the burger, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I had a couple of calls about it from people very close to the Dragons, also from other clubs, saying, "Do you know what this burger's about?" I said, "No, I don't know. Yeah, no idea. Maybe like McDonald's. I don't know." I didn't know.
Hungry
And then
Jacks.
it was
You never knew what the burger meant.
I don't know what it
Yeah.
was. Look, I'm 56. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I
What
know. You look at.
So anyway, I made some, and that's what I was told. I was told it was a dig at Kyle. I rang the club. The club said no. It's to do with this is a term they use within the club for want of a better word, derrick or something like.
Did you even know what a derrick was?
Yeah, I knew what that was.
Okay,
yeah,
good.
I knew what that was. I think that's an older school term, isn't it? Anyway,
Came after Neville.
I wrote it. They deny it. They say it's not right. And I've heard players since, like I heard, I went back and listened to Clint Gutherson. He said that basically that's what it is. That's what that symbol means.
But why are they doing it after they score a try?
I don't know. Jack DeBellin gave a totally different answer, which I found interesting. Someone sent me something saying that it was because he's plugging a burger shop. Then there was another theory that it's to do with people from Helensburgh Burgers, which is, within.
Yeah.
So there's
so
a
it's
lot
obviously an in-joke there, and they don't want to give us the true meaning.
A lot of stuff's I'm getting a lot of different explanations. It's a bit like Benji. Like one day he wants to be there, one day does. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't look. I don't want to have shots at Kyle Flanagan.
Yeah.
That's not. I'm not.
Yeah, you'd rather just go after Shane.
I'm not having shots at Kyle Flanagan. I mean, like I actually said to a couple of people, look, I think that's unfair, and they tore shreds off me for wanting to say that he deserves a chance, and this is all privately. And if the players are doing that, it's not great. I can never.
Mate, it's not great. It's not the word. That is shocking.
But how can I prove it?
No, you can't prove it. But
That's
if the club was able to prove that the players were making
they made
burger symbols, mocking Kyle Flanagan in post-try celebrations.
Yeah,
that's as bad as it gets.
Mate, that's worse than what Sania Taruva and Jerome Luai put on social. That's as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
Now, can you prove it? I don't know.
Did you get any calls on Sunday after it was
it's not mine.
No.
Deathly silent.
No. No one. No. I'm not getting on well with Shane Flanagan. That's well known. That's something that's caused by, ironically, things that happened with him when Kyle was at the Bulldogs. When he was making comments about Trent Barrett's treatment of Kyle Flanagan, his son. And I wrote something about it, and Shane got the irrits about it, and we haven't got along since.
Because he sees you as Team Gus, doesn't he?
But it's got nothing to do with
No,
Gus.
I'm just saying that's what I'm heard.
Yeah,
like,
mate,
he sees
for
it.
sure.
Yeah,
I get a lot of that because I'm close with Gus.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people saying, "Oh, Gus told." Well, no, he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't tell me that, and I've been a journo for 30 odd years. I can have my own views on things, and I can create my own stories. Like I chase my own stuff.
Find your own stories, not
Sorry,
create them.
Sorry,
Is that what you said? Create.
Yeah.
Don't create them, Danny.
Find my own
them.
stories, and
It is literally your job, and has been for a very long time, to find out shit.
Yeah,
it's
and
that simple.
You know what? In this story, I'm never going to win.
No.
Because the players aren't going to come out and say it. Simple as that.
You got to wait until a couple of players leave the club, are removed from it, so their selection in the team.
Look, and I'm sure that down the track I will cop stuff for it.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes.
Hey, and you announced this on 100% Footy. You mentioned the fact that the Dragons are potentially looking at Daniel Anderson to join as a recruitment manager.
Interesting.
So
I think it's moved beyond potentially as well,
Okay,
by the way. I think he's going to be
it's a
there.
happening thing. So something like this does what to help Shane Flanagan build a roster that he's happy with, and the club can go forward in greater steps than it's taking right now. And in general, how important is the role of a recruitment manager in the modern day as opposed to the desire of a first-grade coach trying to attract a player?
And can I take it one step? Was Shane Flanagan doing recruiting for the Dragons before he was coach? Did he have that role at all or not?
He was assistant at
I think he
Manly.
was helping out a little bit. Yeah, before that, when he was at the
Before
Dragons, I
that,
think he was helping out with recruitment,
Like way
maybe.
back, yeah. Okay.
Maybe. But like, sometimes you got to protect the coach from themselves. And I think Shane's starting to realise that now. He would have gone in there, wanted to do everything. And the same as...
That's what he did at Cronulla.
Well, the same as what he did, Cronulla, same as other coaches. You want complete control of the situation. But sometimes it takes away from what you're doing, and that is to coach. And there is a definite feeling at the Dragon that you worry about coaching. So they didn't have the resources to help him. And Ben Harron's the GM. Recruitment has really not been done by anybody at the moment.
What do you mean?
Well, they had... I think Shane Millard was in the role, helping out. He's now coaching. It was just left to Flano and Benny Harron. And not saying they're not good at doing their job, but sometimes you need that extra layer of of protection. Like if Shane Flanagan, let's
or,
say,
or intelligence,
or
as
intelligence
well.
as well, but like the Jack DeBellin situation, if you're making the decisions and you're at the forefront of negotiations and DeBellin's now leaving because you don't want him, you've got to deal with that as a coach. Or at least if there's a GM or a recruitment manager who's controlling it and in the negotiations, they're not getting the shits with the coach. And you can maintain that relationship and make sure he's still getting stuff out of him as a player.
Also,
So-
there's the time factor.
Oh, the time, yeah.
The time factor is huge. Because
Massive.
if Shane Flanagan wants to be a hands-on coach, which I get the feeling he actually is, because he likes being out there running sessions as well as not just standing back and watching it all happen because they've done it up on a whiteboard.
Yeah.
That if you then take into account that one day he's got to go and meet a manager up in Sydney or a player and there's 3 hours on the road and it's just like...
Especially with the travel that he's doing already, Sydney, Wollongong, like it's
not workable.
It's a lot, but my mail is that he's actually acknowledged that. He needs it, like he needs people to help him. He wants the club to invest in that help. So that's going to come in the form of Daniel Anderson. He's been at the Roosters for a number of years. He's...
How is he after his accident, by the way?
Oh, look, life will never be the same for him.
Yeah.
He has limitations around what he can and can't do, but there's no doubting his football mind. He knows
He's well regarded.
He's very well regarded. Like
well
as a
regarded.
coach, he was very highly regarded, and then moved into that area around recruitment. I asked some questions today about him to some player agents. They said he knows the younger guys inside out, so he's across what's going on in the lower grades. I think there's an issue there at the Roosters. Like they've just signed. You wrote the story about Joel Carbone from the Raiders going over there to do
which
some.
is a good signing for them.
Yeah, he's very highly regarded. Joel, younger guy.
Ricky doesn't like him.
He's not a fan.
No,
Loved him. I don't think
loved him
losing
years
him.
ago.
But he's going to be at the Roosters. They were going to work together. The Roosters were happy for them to work together. But clearly, Daniel feels as though, well, if Joel's coming into the club, maybe I'm better suited to head up the Dragons.
Didn't the Roosters also have Clint Zammit there?
Yeah, he's gone back to the Cowboys.
Right,
Yeah.
So that's a big change for the Roosters.
How many clubs have these recruitment managers? Everyone?
Yep.
And what, the
Some
Dragons?
some have 2 or 3.
The Dragons are about the last to finally grasp
Dragons
the
have
concept.
been, the Dragons are definitely under-resourced in that area.
Gee,
Like-
that's poor, isn't it?
Well-
Given where they're at and how long it's been since they've had success, they
yeah.
need someone
Well,
really
even-
good there.
Like the Roosters have had a few. Like they had Daniel Anderson there with Clint Zammit, both highly regarded. The Bulldogs, Liam Ayub's joined Sharpie over there. When there's young guys, like a lot of clubs have 2 or 3 recruitment guys, and the Dragons didn't have a really much in that area.
Why not? I mean,
Resources, you keep on mentioning.
but
with
why
the
not?
club structure,
I
they
think
were
they-
diverting money elsewhere. and-
Yeah, I think they thought that. Well, yeah, I think they thought that Shane
you
and
get a-
Ben Harron could do the
look,
heavy lifting. But
to Shane's credit, he at Cronulla, he made that team. He did it. He was out there working his butt off. He did. He built that gym there. You know what I mean? Like that's how involved he was. He was very hands on, very involved.
But this is back in the day before the $18 million grant from the
no one
NRL.
would, no one
is
would
it
be doing
not?
that now.
No,
That's the thing. It's,
and he used Paul Gallen to help him a lot.
Yeah.
Gallen was a big attraction to players. So
well, hats off to I guess Tim Watford's just got in the job there as CEO.
he
and
seems
he's
quite
starting.
impressive. Champ.
Yeah,
haven't
I
much to
am
do with him,
impressed.
but-
As a Dragons fan, he wants to get things done. I don't think he's shy on letting his feelings be known, and I think Shane Flanagan needs that. I think someone needs to challenge him. Not that he's doing anything wrong, but he needs someone to challenge him. That sometimes, there needs to be
Well,
a
his big
different
problem
way
at
of doing
Cronulla
things.
was that he didn't have someone there, like for a long period.
Yeah.
and he definitely needs that. He definitely needs that.
What's the go at the Bulldogs? Is there the feeling after
Lachlan Galvin's there.
Lachlan Galvin's joined, in case you missed the news? Reid Marnie is there, but he won't be next season. He's sorted out his future. Toby Sexton sorted out his future. Are they happy that all of this has happened within a few weeks of each other, Danny, because they're playing the long game? Or are they worried that, this might hurt this season? Because at the moment, like last Thursday night, they dropped a game that ordinarily they'll regret.
So there's a lot of different levels to this situation and story. First of all, okay, Reid Marnie. Reid went to the club wanting an extension. They didn't see that as part of their plans, so the manager asked, can he look around? Perfectly normal business.
Mm-hmm.
He got a contract. I don't know why that's become such a big deal, right? They didn't see a future for him. The Cowboys do.
I can see why it's a big
But
deal.
it was his initiation, right? It wasn't Lachlan Galvin saying, "Hey mate, I want you out of the club," which is how some people want to portray it. Toby Sexton, off contract for 6-8 months. Toby's done a fantastic job in his role at the Bulldogs. Unfortunately, there wasn't an offer for Toby Sexton in Australia.
Which I find
But
mind-blowing. We're
I'm
talking
just
about
saying,
sevens.
Now, is that Lachlan Galvin's fault?
Hmm.
I I don't think it is. So Toby's now got a contract, and he'll come back to the NRL. He's playing in France. He'll come back as a good player, and there'll be opportunities for him down the track because he is emerging as a good player. But the Bulldogs clearly were keeping Toby Sexton informed. They were talking to him every single week about his game, and they were telling him the areas that he needed to improve on. And quite often, Toby Sexton would be marking himself at a far more fierce level than the Bulldogs even. He was critical of himself. So, again, they were looking for stuff out of him. Clearly, he didn't give them what they wanted. Lachlan Galvin, he's been blamed for that as well.
Well,
it's not Lachlan Galvin's fault.
I know it's not, but what I'm saying is from the outside, all this happens and they're losing games.
So Lachlan Galvin, 18-0, the Bulldogs are leading the Broncos. They didn't score the tries down Lachlan Galvin's side of the field. You can blame him for whatever you want.
No, I'm not blaming
I'm just
Lachlan
saying
Galvin.
in general. I'm not saying you, but there's a perception, they lost because of Lachie Galvin. No, they didn't lose.
Well, whoever said that wasn't watching the game. Well, but what I'm saying is the general sentiment and feeling.
There are people with an agenda against Gus. There are people with an agenda.
You reckon?
Against
no way.
Isaac Moses.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's served anyone well. Tiger, Bulldog, Galvin, for this to have played out the way it has.
Yeah, I can understand it's not the ideal timing, right?
No, I don't know why the Bulldogs pushed so hard to make it happen now. Like, great signing.
I don't know if the Bulldogs
so
pushed so hard to make it. He was.
Gus said that when it became available, right now.
Yeah, but it became available. So what? They weren't going to try and get him.
You don't think he would have? You don't think he would have went to the Dogs for the year after? I'm
Parramatta?
not blaming Gus here.
Interested?
I'm not blaming Gus because I know that this is people bagging Gus for these decisions, Marnie and Sexton. I know that it's a coaching decision. The coach believes they should go in a different direction. You can blame Gus for trying to blow up a roster. And I'm not sitting here defending Gus because he and I don't have a relationship.
Yep, I know.
But that's not the truth. The truth of it is they want to play Bailey Hayward at 9 next year.
That's been
the
their
truth of it is they
plan.
don't think Sexton can deliver him a premiership.
That's what the message is.
So there's a reason Sexton wasn't offered a contract anywhere else. And you spoke about earlier, Dragons looking for a marquee signing at halfback. Everyone's looking for something that stands out.
The Raiders were looking for a halfback,
yeah,
and they didn't entertain Toby Sexton.
And the manager didn't do his client any favours by constantly playing it out in the media and saying that he had offers that the Bulldogs were going to make him. All it did was piss the Bulldogs off. And in the end, the Bulldogs would have kept Sexton. I reckon if it got to the end of the year and he had no other offers, the Bulldogs would have given him 250, 300 and he would have stayed as a backup.
Exactly right. He would have been a backup half because they weren't going to leave him without a job. There's a respect for Toby Sexton at that club, and he's very, very well liked.
Yeah.
Now, again, that's not Lachie Galvin's fault. I mean,
who's saying it's Lachie Galvin's fault? Is that what's been said?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah, it's being said that he's become this target for everybody, that he's suddenly this guy who's disrupting the whole club. He's a 19-year-old
Maybe
kid.
I'm not hearing it properly. Well, I don't get that feel.
That's the feeling I
get the feel they're blaming Gus for
bringing
Lachie
Galvin
coming
in.
But I don't know people are saying, Galvin's ruined the... I think that's really harsh on the kid. I just think
social media, you look at it and he's copying it.
Yeah, but this is what I said to you from the moment it happened. You're doing the kid a disservice because you've just opened him up to all of this shit that he's going to deal with for the rest of his career. He's become the poster boy.
Are you saying that Isaac opened him up to all that?
Yeah.
Well, imagine the alternative. If Lachlan Galvin stayed beyond June 30, said after June 30, by the way, I'm going to go to the Dogs next year, stayed at the Tigers. How does that alternate universe look like for Lachlan Galvin? Not much better, especially with the flat earthers on social media saying the things that they're saying. So
I think it's so early in his career and his development. Like we're talking weeks.
He'll be fine.
It'll be like there's going to be some short-term pain for long-term gain.
What I have noticed though, and I don't think it's been picked up as much about the Bulldogs, Stephen Crichton hasn't been there throughout this whole period.
Yeah,
he's been in and
injuries,
out. No, but he's been off with Origin. If he's there the whole time,
if he's there at 18-0,
he's such a good leader.
I agree.
I think things.
Yeah.
If he's there at 18-0 against the Broncos,
not sure that happens.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But also, I don't think the ladder go back 4 or 5 weeks. I don't think the ladder truly reflected where they were. I think there was still a lot of improvement in them, and the fact they were first was a credit to Cameron Serrato on the team. But I wasn't convinced they were playing the kind of football they were going to win a premiership with. And
did anyone think they're going to win the comp this year?
Mate, I was more impressed with what they did against Penrith and lost. I don't think the wins and losses are the issue.
Did Lachie Galvin play in that game at all? I can't remember.
He came on, he came on in the last 20. Yeah.
With you always talk about it. You got to win before your cap starts to kind of, pay the players what the top of their potential is worth. You've got to get them along the way before that's happening. When is that again for the Bulldogs?
Oh, it's
How
now.
the cap's looking?
It's now. But I think Cameron Ciraldo, he realised that Cameron Ciraldo is not playing to win. Like, he's not coaching to win a premiership. He's coaching to build a dynasty. Like, there's a difference, but you can see it. You can see it. Like, you don't do what you did this year if you have a short-term vision of winning this year's comp. What he's trying to do is what he did at Penrith, or what Penrith have done. You can see it. He's putting the pieces of the puzzle so that we know that if this guy comes in, another guy comes in, replace him, we're going to have a system in place that holds up in any situation. And that is a long-term success.
That's a Gus idea.
Well, Gus would have taught him everything he knows coming through, for sure. But that's what Ciro's doing. Ciro's trying to win multiple premierships, not one off and then sail and watch it all crash and burn because you've paid too much. And that's what Reid Marnie is in the end. It's not we don't want Reid Marnie because he's hopeless.
He's been terrific for them.
It's what Reid Marnie's on $650. Maybe we're better off playing Bailey Hayward is on half the money and we save that money and be able to do what we do with our roster. It's not a personal thing. It's not Reid Marnie's a grub, we hate him, or we need to blow things up. It's just roster management. Yeah. And the Panthers did that over and over again, letting pieces of the puzzle go, letting Appy go, letting Kickow go, letting Crichton go. You need to make tough decisions. The consequences are pressure comes on you if you don't get it right. Yeah. And in Penrith's case, every time they let somebody go, they still made it work, so they never got any criticism.
Mark Nawaqanitawase.
Are they signing him as well? Doggies.
Is he going to be
signing.
a Rooster in 2027, or is he going to be wearing a Wallabies jersey?
What's a Wallabies jersey?
No,
I'm joking.
Stan Sport, I love you, Chammy.
I've said this time and time again. I am gobsmacked, cannot believe that the rugby league bubble would be that fortified that you'd see a guy like this come into the game and be surprised about his skill level. Like, what planet? You just need to go and type his name on
Adam, we
YouTube.
don't get time to watch everything.
It's not that difficult.
The bloke. Some of us went to Paris and watched him at the Olympics and thought, yep, he's going to be good.
You just have to look at a 3-minute highlight clip over his last 2-3 years in rugby.
I've been too busy watching 30-minute docos on Isaac Moses.
The guy is good.
He's been too busy on Urban Dictionary looking up lingo to use on his podcast.
Lingo. What's lingo?
So the guy is good and he could be great. The way obviously he's got things in his game that the Roosters still want to improve, but as a finisher,
great.
If there's little space on a wing and you throw him the ball, he and maybe Brian To'o and a few others out there are the ones that you want the ball in the hands of.
Nick Politis won't want to lose him.
No, so is he going to go back to rugby? Is that the word?
I don't know. I think he's left he's left his options open about what he wants to do.
Did an interview with him last week.
I think Dan Walsh at the Herald as well did one. I don't know. To be honest with you, I haven't made the phone calls. I've been too busy trying to
ward off the Tigers.
tear down the Tigers, as they say. Just, running
batten
agendas.
down the hatches.
Yeah, so I haven't made a lot of phone calls.
When you drive home from here, which is in the CBD of Sydney, and you drive back out to the Golden West, do you go around or under?
No, they
the
designed the tunnel for me, so I don't get egged on the way past.
The West connects, huh?
Yeah. Somehow, I think they're starting to drill down, though, those Gronks.
They're going to rename it the Chammas. The
escape tunnel.
Yeah.
I actually love the Tigers. I actually really do.
No, it's play on.
Reed's like
Marky Mark, what's the go? You don't know?
Not sure.
Not sure?
Look, the rugby want him. There's no question. But I haven't done enough digging.
Can they afford him?
Don't know. Aren't they getting rivers of gold coming in from the Lions?
Not seen the crowds of the Lions through the last couple of weeks.
That's a bonus for them.
Yeah, it's a big fill up for them. And they got the Rugby World Cup. That to me is the carrot for the guy. 2027 home World Cup, once in a lifetime. Yeah, I think he goes.
Hard
unfortunately.
To ignore that.
Yeah, you know what?
For rugby league,
now that you sell it that way, you know what? If I'm him, I'd probably do it too.
Yeah.
It's only 1 year.
And then
sign a 1 year deal, come back.
Yeah. You love a code hopper, Chammy.
Yeah, we do. You made your career out of a code hopper.
You guys going to? We're releasing this Wednesday morning. You'll be there.
Origin.
Yep. You going, Chammy?
To where? Origin.
State of.
Yeah,
Origin.
I'll be there.
Chammy always does a good job when he's actually at Origin. He always gets a good yarn.
I'm just looking for some stinks on the sideline, looking for drama.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
I'll be there, actually.
Doesn't watch the game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Corporate box, hosting a function, doing a podcast.
I was going, and then someone asked me to do a corporate function. So I went, 2 birds, 1 stone. Why not?
Ah, I love it.
Fill up. I was meant to do a function.
Yeah, no, don't go there.
With him.
With him?
Yeah. But I brushed him because I wanted to go to the game. When it was 1-1, I went, I'm going. Can't wait. Should be good.
Has anyone got more gigs than you, Adam? Seriously?
Nope.
Like I have not met with someone who does more gigs.
Mate, revenue in,
I've seen your
revenue
other
out.
podcasts.
I'm as
That's
genuine
all it
all-rounder.
is. I'm just
He's
balancing
a
the
Jacques
books.
Callis.
I actually feel bad when I see him on another podcast hosting. I feel like he's our
He's with
host.
Kenty. How do you feel about him doing
Good.
Kenty? Yeah, happy
Fantastic.
with
Good
that?
catching up with Kenty last
Yeah.
week.
I know, but like Danny's been at war with him. for a
Jeez, he
long
fired
time.
up about the NRL and that
I'm
article
not
with
still at
Buzz.
war with him.
You were. I'm just making sure that I'm Team Kenty. He defended me with Gus, so I'm more Team Kenty.
Oh, here
than
he
team.
is, the people's champion.
People's
Send the
champ.
trumpets out.
I'm with Team. I'm
The
with
people's
Kenty.
champion.
You hang out with Gus, and I'll hang out with Kenty.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay, officially dribbling. Time to
See
go.
ya.
See ya.
Peace out. Lights out.